In 2002, the town of Hartlepool announced the results of their mayoral election. The winner, celebrating alongside a wildly cheering crowd, was a man wearing a giant plush monkey suit. His name was Stuart Drummond, though he was better known as Hengist the Monkey, the football club's mascot. The voters of Hartlepool didn't just give him a few protest votes, they elected him to lead their local government. For centuries, people from neighboring towns had relentlessly mocked Hartlepool with a very specific, deeply bizarre insult. They called them the monkey hangers. Why would a community earn a reputation for executing a primate and then choose to put a man in that same costume in charge of their town? To understand the mascot's victory, we have to look back at one of the most paranoid, fear-driven periods in British history. In the early 1800s, Britain was locked in a bitter, existential conflict with France during the Napoleonic Wars. Hartlepool was a quiet waterfront town, but the war was always looming in the background. A suffocating fear gripped the entire British coastline. People assumed a French invasion fleet could appear on the horizon at any moment. Coastal communities heavily fortified their shores. Towns positioned massive cannons facing the water, and locals learned to treat every unfamiliar ship, stray voice, or strange shadow on the beach as a potential threat. In this hyper-vigilant environment, reality was quickly discarded in favor of suspicion. The local legend begins with a violent storm. A French ship was caught in the squall and smashed to pieces right off the coast. When the townspeople rushed down to the shore to inspect the wreckage, they found only a single survivor waiting in the sand, a monkey. The sailors aboard the ruined ship had kept the animal as a pet, and according to the legend, they had dressed it in a miniature French military uniform. Having never seen a living primate or a real French soldier, the locals took the animal's clothing as proof of its identity. Their fear turned the creature into an enemy combatant. The crowd dragged the animal into town for a trial. Because the monkey couldn't speak English or explain its presence, the townspeople interpreted its silence as a refusal to cooperate. The verdict was quick. Convinced they had captured a spy, the crowd took the monkey to the town gallows and hanged it.
But there's a significant problem with this story. Historians have found no evidence that any of this actually took place. There are no court records, no news reports, and no local accounts from the time. The story most likely began as a satirical song or an old fable that eventually stuck to the town like a real historical fact. The literal truth of the hanging matters less than the fact that the story was plausible enough to survive for 200 years.
It demonstrates how quickly panic can turn a rumor into a permanent reputation. Modern historians and sociologists use the Hartlepool legend to analyze the mechanics of mass hysteria. It serves as a persistent example of how extreme external threats can cause a population to bypass logic entirely. This chart shows the relationship between external pressure and logic. As wartime paranoia rises, rational thought plummets, making impossible scenarios feel necessary. For 2 centuries, outsiders used the monkey hanger nickname as a persistent slur, defining Hartlepool by this narrative of ignorance. Eventually, the town's strategy changed. Rather than trying to debunk the myth or hide from mockery, they began incorporating the monkey into their local identity. This shift culminated in the 2002 election. By voting for Hengist, the town effectively turned a weaponized insult into a political statement of their own making. The Hartlepool monkey legend began as a story about a town paralyzed by fear. Today, that same story is the main reason a man in a mascot suit became a 3-term mayor.